Do we have time for one or two more?
Of course, love to.
Yeah, let me broaden the scope a little bit. Anybody in the room that has a question? Looks like we have another student question. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yes, I'm Barrett. I'm just a member of the Economics Reading Club.
Just a member. Hey, we welcome all members, Barrett.
Right, that's right.
But it's related to your last answer, and that's with quitting, right? There's incentive structures inside of the market for firms and stuff to quit on things that don't scale, right? Like the food chain that you had mentioned by Jamie Oliver, right?
Yeah.
When it stopped scaling, it failed after a year or so.
Yeah.
But there's really no such incentive structures inside of the government. So how do you make an incentive structure to make them quit on things that aren't scaling?
Yeah, it's a great point. And that's a deep and important point, because once you cast something like that, it is, like I said, it's super important, first of all, to set them up in a way that we can measure if they're doing well. Most of the times, Ryan, you work on like smoking incidents and things like that. So I worked a little bit with Australia when they rolled out the graphic the graphic illustrations on the packs, and back in 2012. And what happens when a lot of governments roll out new programs, they actually roll them out in a way that makes it nearly impossible to figure out, is it working or not? And it's almost like they do that on purpose. Now, the point, Barrett, that you bring up is true, because governments are a monopoly. So they're not, let's say, disciplined by the difficulties of the market, because they roll something out, so they're wasting some money. What's going to happen? Citizens don't typically leave countries because you have an inefficient policy that you rolled out. So there's a very limited disciplining force when you're a monopolist, like governments are. So you don't have the natural market discipline going on with government. So I think that two things. One, whenever we introduce a new idea, we should sunset it. And what sunset means is, say you give it 10 years, and then by law, you have to evaluate it. So that would make governments from the very beginning roll it out in a way to where we can measure it and we can figure out, does it work? For whom does it work? And how much does it work? And then how much does it cost? Chapter 5 of the voltage effect is on the supply side. If we did more of that, then we would have to basically have evidence in year 10 of efficacy, and it would make governments behave in a way like firms have to behave because of the market discipline. This would be telling governments, you also have to behave because we have to figure out if it works or not within 10 years. Does that help, Barrett?
Does, yes, thank you.
Like, I don't know why we don't do that. And I think the reason why we don't is because governments love to be monopolists.